Here with me now to discuss is former CIA Operations Officer Clare Lopez. Clare, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
After Friday's attack, do you think it's safe to say that ISIS is not contained?
Geographically speaking, in that part of the Middle East where there used to be a country called Syria and another one called Iraq, the Islamic State is sort of geographically contained. And in that, it's not expanding any further out of that footprint. But the problem and the issue that we see with France in particular, but also elsewhere in the Western world, is that it is not just about the Islamic State. This is about a global jihad movement. It's not that the Islamic State is expanding or contracting. It is that there are like-minded supporters, devout Muslim followers of Islamic doctrine, law, and scripture that command these kinds of attacks against infidels. And there are those people all over the world, including living right there in France and in neighboring countries like Belgium, where two of the attackers, at least we are now told, came from.
Now, French President François Hollande said today that France is at war. In your opinion, will the U.S. join them?
France is absolutely right. The President, François Hollande, definitely is right that France is at war. We are at war as well. The Islamic global jihad movement is at war with the rest of the non-Islamic world. Will our White House, will our president acknowledge that? No, you absolutely will not. But I think that we know that that's the case. The people of France certainly know it today.
Now, at least one of the terrorists that attacked Paris had a Syrian passport. He was said to have come into Greece, I believe, as a Syrian refugee. Now, Obama said that we are going to, here in the United States, accept 10,000 Syrian refugees. Is there a possibility that ISIS will send their officers, their militants here to attack us?
Not just a possibility, a certainty. And I'm not going on just what FBI Director James Comey has said in open testimony in Congress about not being able to vet these people at all. But let's go back to that jihadi who was a suicide bomber in the French attack, and that passport that was found that was ostensibly a Syrian passport. The follow-up to that bit of news is that the Serbian officials today have arrested a man carrying precisely the same passport. Name, photo, details, everything. That means that there are probably thousands and thousands of false documents out there, in particular, false Syrian passports. A Syrian passport today is worth nothing because it is they are being copied, they are being fraudulently produced, and they are being shipped into Western Europe and elsewhere for the use of refugees who, in fact, are on hijra as young fighting-age males, Muslim men, moving into Europe en masse as an army.
Now, we have identified who was the mastermind behind this attack. In a maximum-level security alert, raids in France helped identify the Belgian man. Now that we have identified him, in your opinion, what can we do about this? Is there anything we can do to prevent future attacks of this nature?
Well, certainly here in the United States, if we had different leadership, we would take a number of steps. First of all would be to declare that we understand that there is a global jihad movement that includes not only the violent jihadists like attacked in Paris, but also the entire support network, including Muslim Brotherhood and mosques belonging to the Muslim Brotherhood that we have right here in the United States that are incubators for jihad. We would also take steps to halt our refugee resettlement program here in the United States right now, at least until we can discern who is coming, how many, from where, and how they were vetted. Those are two immediate steps that we would need to take.
Is there any way to do that vetting that you speak of in a way that would effectively prevent terrorists from entering our country with these refugees?
You know, that's a very good question, and the answer is probably no. I just spoke a bit ago about the false documentation out there by the thousands and thousands, these fake Syrian passports. As we know, at least half or more of the migrant movement into Europe is comprised of young fighting-age Muslim males who are not Syrian. They're coming from many other places. But even considering if these people are coming from Syria, let's say, or the former Syria, the former Iraq, how are you going to check them? You know, this is what Director Comey was getting at. You can check American databases, terror watch databases, for example, but if they're not in there, then where do you go? Do you go back to the local authorities in the place where the people came from? What authorities in Syria? What authorities in Iraq? Are you going to check with the local police, the Assad regime, the Iranian puppet regime in Baghdad? There's no way effectively to do good background checks on these people, which is why the refugee flow into America must stop, at least for the time being, from these locations.
Right, as well as shutting down the borders. France has now closed their borders. I think the United States needs to do the same. Now, officials have also reported that Jihadi John, very famous Islamic terrorist, has been killed. Do you think that we should expect retaliation from ISIS in the United States because of this target?
You know, the Islamic State has singled out the United States as well as the rest of the Western world, countries in Western Europe, like France, in many of its online videos and public statements. If indeed it turns out that Jihadi John has been killed, and that's not been confirmed yet, they think he has been killed, but they're not sure. But if he has, that would not really add in any considerable, meaningful sense to the intent of the Islamic State to carry out jihad against the West, against Europe, against the United States and elsewhere. It would not appreciably increase the threat, is I guess what I'm saying. The threat is plenty high already.
Clare, I appreciate your knowledge on these insights and hope you come back anytime.